All right, new chapter. This chapter is all about prisons and the death penalty. And I already segued in it from the last video. Hopefully, you saw that. And if you didn't, I don't think it really matters. I'm just going to get into it anyway. As a lot of you might not know, the prison overpopulation problem in the United States is pretty horrendous. Over the years, prisons have evolved from different things. I don't really want to go into a huge amount of the history, but over time, prisons have gotten better, they've gotten worse, and unfortunately, it's a very important issue that I think not a lot of people think about. I mean, obviously, when there's a murder on the news and you think about death trial and this and that, or if you're like, oh, well, any one of you is involved in a crime or something, like as a victim or something like that, you're like, oh, I hope they put that person away, or some like child molester or something gets sent away to prison, and like, oh, I hope he gets what he deserves in prison because everybody knows it's bad in there, right? It's just prison is this huge cultural thing that not a lot of people really know about, but everybody kind of has a lot of anecdotal information about that. I mean, you just kind of catch from TVs and this and that. And prisons are made out to be just these fortresses with, high walls, barbed wire fences, guards with guns, and all this kind of stuff. But not a lot of people, I don't want to say know about the prison system because a lot of people know about it, but I don't really think that you really take the time to critically think about it. I know that's so lame to say something like that, but this is basically what this chapter is about, is trying to get you guys to think about it and trying to think about human rights and those sort of things, and how much money people are really wasting on the prison system today. And just to put that in perspective, in some states, I believe, the budget for prisons is about a third of the state's budget. The other third is usually education, and in some instances, states pay more money on prisons than they do on education. Now, if you know anything about the prison education dynamic, basically, when your prison fund or when your education funds go down, your prison funds need to go up, because I don't want to say it's just common knowledge, because I mean common knowledge isn't really common, but if you don't educate your people and give them the opportunities to advance themselves, one of the biggest theories of crime is that people just don't have the legitimate means to achieve the goals and dreams that they're basically ingrained to want. So everybody in the country, they want their flat screen TVs, they want their pimped out rides, they all want the bling bling for some reason. Not all of us, obviously. I'm not wearing any bling, but most people want that. And unfortunately, because of the education system the way it is, the competition, right now, the job market, fuck that, it's just not easy. And a lot of people turn to crime in order to facilitate the the capture of their goals, and sometimes that lands them in bad places. On the other hand, some people just be crazy. They go around beating people up, stabbing people, raping people, whatever. There's those people too. But if you look at the statistics and you look at them really hard, you'll realize that I think the vast majority of people in prisons are there for things like robbery, drug possession, not necessarily nonviolent stuff, but a lot of stuff that doesn't really owe a lot of white collar crime stuff, but they've got their own prisons, those white collar crime guys, I think. But I mean, they're not all that bad people, and well, yeah, some of them are obviously pretty bad, but people forget that they're still people, and they still need to be treated with dignity and with respect. And hopefully, this video can kind of bring to light a lot of the things that you might not know about them, and maybe give you a different perspective on what's going on in their lives and whatnot, and hopefully give a better perspective of how we can fix it, make it better. Yeah, sound good? Okay. All right, so back in the day, prisons, and now basically, prisons are allowed to basically just confine you to your quarters, and just let you sit there and do nothing basically. And a lot of the supermax prisons, I think it's like 23 hours of just complete isolation in your cell. That'll fucking drive anybody crazy, obviously. When you send people to prison, and somebody commits a crime against you and you send them to prison, you're like, oh, that'll show them, right? But in all honesty, going to prison is, you know, hopefully I don't misspeak here, but for the most part, sending someone to prison isn't generally going to make them better. It's going to generally make them worse. And one of the reasons for that is, for one, just the constant threat of violence will basically, I don't say keep you on your toes, but it'll basically cause you to be more violent, to have to protect yourself to stay alive. And not only that, but the isolation that some of those people endure is just, it can break you mentally. The stigmatization of just having the oh, you're a convict, or you're a criminal, that held over your head just for the rest of your life. I mean, the psychological impact of that is just like, oh well, I'm already fucked, I might as well keep doing it. If you live your life 40 years, you got kids, house, cars, white picket fucking fence, and then you get thrown in jail, you're like, oh well, I lost, might as well keep doing this shit, and it's very demotivating. And I know a lot of people are thinking out there, well, fuck them, who cares, right? But what a lot of people don't realize is that those people will eventually get out. Obviously, unless they're given the death penalty, or life in prison. Even that, in those cases, they it's a pretty good possibility that they can get out, which a lot of people don't like. But when those people get out, going in prison and making them worse, they're just going to come out worse. And they're going to interact with society again. And people are like, oh well, it's not my problem. Those people are in jail, I don't have to think about them. It's really something that we should all think about, because those people will eventually re-enter society. They will eventually possibly live down the street from you, and it's probably a good idea to, I don't want to say treat them well, but at least treat them in a respectful way to where they won't get worse. And not only prison overpopulation, but I guess reducing what's called recidivism is one of the main goals of this chapter. And one of the ways to do that is to just make the prison system less violent. Some people would argue that that's being too lenient on them. Being cut off from your friends and your family and all that kind of stuff, it's not very good situation to be in the first place. And a lot of people just want those people to be punished over and over again. But like I said before, you punish them, you make them worse. And so not that we're not punishing them, but just vehemently, advocating for just pain and suffering is not the kind of punishment scheme that we should really be thinking about, and for those reasons that I said. So, with recent technological advancements, thankfully, there's a lot of things that we can do to make prisons not so violent and scary all the time, maybe. A couple of the ways that we can do it is obviously just separation. You can separate inmates by physically separating them, but not like mentally separating them. So they still be able to communicate with each other, so that they're not completely isolated, so they don't lose all aspects of human interaction besides, being handcuffed. Basically using like electronic doors, safety protocols, 24-hour monitoring, obviously, security cameras, motion sensors, one door open, the other one has to be closed type of thing, so they can't be open at the same time. Just interlocks, tons of things that you can do just to keep the prisoners safe from each other and to keep the guards safe from the prisoners. You can have lower amounts of staff the more technology you use. Another thing that I'd like to see introduced, and I know a lot of research has come out against this because it actually has been proven to be pretty dangerous, and that's tasing. Now, I know that might sound kind of shitty, but gosh, there was this movie a long time ago, and I don't think it was a movie. I think it was an episode of Outer Limits, which is an awesome show. And basically, the show was about this prison that these people went to, and they wore these collars. And if they went off prison ground, there was no gates. If they went off prison grounds, their collars would explode and their heads would fucking blow off, right? Now that's pretty horrible. But I think, personally, if I had a child or a parent or something like that in prison, and I had to choose between them getting shot in the face or getting a shock, I would most definitely prefer them to get shock and not die. So, and I know, like I said, recent research has shown that tasing people can actually cause cardiac arrest, but one of the good things about prison is that it's very supervised and they have on site medical. So, if someone were to go into cardiac arrest, they would most likely be able to be resuscitated. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to, because the type of system that I'm talking about would be a very threat suppressive, very easily threat suppressive. And what that means is that every inmate would wear their shock collar, right? And I know that's pretty degrading, and I very apologize for that. But it's honestly, it's for their safety and everyone else's safety as well. They would wear the collar, and guards would have access to have like a directional area shocking, or they can have like a single beam that can shock one person. Whatever the case is, they can shock a group of people in a certain area. So if there happen to be like a riot or a fight breaking out, everyone clusters around it. You know what? Fuck all you guys. Sorry, but you're in the way. I need to get to this. I need to stop it. I need to protect those people. I need to prevent you from fucking shanking everybody. So I'm going to put everyone down in the area. And what that would allow is that puts everyone down. You get in there, you get out the people that are causing the ruckus. The whole situation's calmed down. You can use a lot less staff. It's all non lethal. And it's completely temporary, unlike certain things like mace or using a billy club or something like breaking someone's arm, putting them, because I mean using holding and pain manipulation techniques is very painful, and sometimes it can go a little bit too far and people can break limbs, fingers, noses, whatever. And that's something I'd like to avoid: permanent damage. And a little shock that'll stun you, put you on your ass, hopefully for the most part isn't going to do a lot of damage. Obviously, if you get if you get shocked like every fucking day because you just won't settle down, probably going to have to be put in isolation at that point, not only for your own safety so that you don't develop like long-term heart problems from all the shocks, but also just because, I mean, you're a dick. You have to get shocked all the time, so probably shouldn't be in the general population anyway. But yeah, I mean, you'd be able to control large crowds or just a single person depending on what you want. And in my opinion, it some people would argue that it's not very humane. I think from the evidence that I just put forth, I think it's a lot more humane than shooting someone, breaking someone's limb, or letting someone die, letting an inmate kill another inmate. I think it's a lot more humane than that. And obviously, there'd be an issue with if you're in the shower and these collars. So there'd obviously have to be like a individual shower type of thing where yours would be deactivated, but in a certain manner to keep everyone safe at that point. So, and also that would help reduce prison rape, obviously, if you were only allowed to shower your own little business and off by yourself. But yeah, so that's a benefit too. So that's those technological advancements, hopefully. And now I guess I'd like to get into a little bit of the financial implications of this, I guess, kind of, maybe. If you're up for that, I'm up for that. Like I said before, prison budgets are just astounding. We spend so much money to put people away. I think we have the largest percentage per population of prisoners anywhere in the entire world. The United States is absolutely ridiculous.